we weren't prepared for what we experienced in obstacle racing. It's taken over the world of endurance sports. Known by their company names like Tough Mudder, Spartan Race, and Warrior Dash, the races vary in length from 3-mile sprints to 26.2-mile marathons. These races aren't run in the streets, but through muddy fields. They're laden with hazards like fire, ice, and electric wires. It's a gauntlet run that requires endurance, agility, and a high tolerance for pain where there's a real chance of getting seriously injured. But last year, more than 1.5 million people in the U.S. ran an obstacle course. Tonight, we're going to bring you to some of the dirtiest and most grueling races on the planet. Races from hell. On a cold and rainy weekend in Malibu, California, 10,000 people paid upwards of $100 each to be soaked in water, cut by barbed wire, burned and beaten. This race is called a Spartan Sprint, a 3-mile run up and down narrow canyons that are littered with 15 military-style obstacles. Some of these races run for time and a chance to win, while others just hope to finish.
Congratulations. Thank you, thank you.
The race is a mini boot camp. Young and old thrill seekers in varying states of fitness, united by a certain insanity.
We're experts in helping people accomplish things they didn't think were possible.
It is not a burpee if your chest doesn't hit the ground.
Joe DeSena and Andy Weinberg found themselves bored with running marathons and Ironman races and were looking for another challenge when they came up with an idea 3 years ago that would change their lives.
Wouldn't it be great if we had an event that just screwed with people, that just got them back down to their basics and brought out that animal in them, and then we got to watch who survived and who quit?
It was DeSena and Weinberg who quit their jobs and launched Spartan Race, which has been called the best obstacle race in the country. Last year, more than 350,000 people participated.
We thought it'd be neat to have races that people can't expect. And it's like an element of surprise. You come to this race, these people are getting out of the water, they don't know what the next challenge is. So it's a lot like life. There's peaks and valleys. Sometimes everything's going great, sometimes not so good. And you have to fight through. You don't give up.
The first obstacle was wading through a swamp, somewhere in between the brawny weekend warriors and the tutu-wearing 20-somethings was a very cold, very wet 60 Minutes correspondent. That's me. What followed was a steep hike up the Zuma Canyons where I ended up on the greased and uneven monkey bones. If you fall as I did, Spartan volunteers will penalize you with a punishing exercise called burpees, 30 of them.
How many you got? All the way to the ground. Put your bellies on the ground. I want some dirty shirts.
Next was a 40-pound sandbag carry up a steep, muddy mound. To test your inner Spartan, there was naturally a spear throw. Then a second pass through a murky swamp. When you emerge from the water, there's an 80-pound rope pull-up.
There we go.
Next, a slippery wall that, as this participant discovered,
Look at you. You're killing it.
is much harder than it looks.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
The next obstacle was a painful crawl up a rock-covered hill, just inches below barbed wire. So why'd you decide to do this?
Who does this on their 50th birthday?
Would you do this again?
I don't know. Maybe for 60?
The race ends in the gladiator pit, with a leap over fire and a run through a gauntlet. Some are shown mercy, while others are downright pummeled. Fighting back, as I've discovered, not a good idea. Feeling a bit bruised and beaten, there was a silver lining, a finisher's medal.
Congratulations. Good job.
First one I did, I felt like a kid again for the first time in I don't know how many years.
If the sport has a superstar, it's Hobie Carr, who's won 25 Spartan races. He won this Malibu sprint in a time of just under 30 minutes. A former air conditioning repairman, Carl now trains full-time for the races. What's the secret to surviving one of these races?
Biggest secret's a good sense of humor. There's always a moment in the race where you're like, what the heck was I thinking? You know? And you just gotta keep smiling. Just like, hey, I signed up for a challenge. Here's my challenge.
And you keep signing up. Why?
Oh, they're so addicting.
This race attracts everyone from elite athletes to first-timers like Guillermo Sandoval. So why are you running this race?
Why do you want to do this?
Well, actually, I didn't know what it was all about. And a week ago, believe me, my brother signed me up. And I said, it's going to be a walkathon or something. And I said, okay.
Life-changing?
Yes.
How so?
I'm going to go through. I'm going to take my time, but I'm going to do it.
As if the race wasn't challenging enough, we saw several people wearing gas masks to restrict their breathing. There's a guy here with a gas mask on. What's that about?
They just want to push themselves beyond their limits.
What are your day jobs?
I run a family business, a flexible packaging company.
Wow.
I'm a medical interpreter.
The founders of Spartan Race say the event changes lives, and the pain and bruises build character.
I'm talking to you. I'm watching a woman slip and slide down the wall, hanging onto a rope.
She is struggling.
She's struggling.
And you seem to like the fact that she's struggling.
Well, I mean, she's got to get through it. And when she gets through it, she's got a new standard to set her life on top of. And I see it, I mean, we see it every weekend, wherever we are. This is what we see. And they hug you at the finish line. They may be crying, but they hug you at the finish line.
The race attracts not just the daring, but the tech-obsessed. And we couldn't help but notice how many participants carried and wore expensive cameras to record their accomplishments and post online. It's called humble bragging.
All these people, they love getting muddy and getting dirty and showing their friends, look what we did. So they all take pictures, and that one picture on Facebook goes to all their friends. And then it just grows.
Could you be as successful without social media?
I don't think you could be this successful without it.
The most successful obstacle race operator is Tough Mudder. The company runs out of a warehouse in the Dumbo section of Brooklyn, and its 140-person staff consists of former bankers and attorneys who are now working on Tough Mudder design projects. Will Dean, the company's founder, is not averse to some humble bragging of his own. In just 3 years, Tough Mudder has grown into a $70 million operation.
Oh, yeah.
I remember writing the business plan and saying, by year 4, we will have 7,500 participants. By year 4, we're going to have 750,000 participants. And that's blown us away.
Mudder's obstacles have clever names like Arctic Enema, Funky Monkey, and Everest, and are considered easier than other race courses. Though Mudder's signature obstacle, electroshock therapy, is a run through a 10,000-volt curtain of loose wires. But Dean says Tough Mudder is more of a challenge than a race, and a marketable one at that.
I believe very strongly that experiences are the new luxury good. And I think that's something that we're trying to tap into, this belief that experiences and memories appreciate in value.
Any chance this is just a fad that 3 years, 5 years from now, when your generation gets older, your knees get bad, that you'll do something else?
Everyone's been telling me since our first ever event this is a fad, and well done, but you probably won't achieve that again. And if you look at what we're doing, it's a challenge that you do with your friends, that hopefully you enjoy and you come back. And that's something that people have been doing since the dawn of time.
But Dean's business was helped by an eccentric former British Army officer, Billy Wilson.
We're going to take them through the Georgia chamber because we've got the electric on in there.
A man considered to be the modern-day creator of extreme obstacle course racing.
Hello, you boy. We don't actually kill them. If they could come here and die, that's no problem.
Wilson lives on a 150-acre farm outside Wolverhampton, England.
We need some rain and some sunshine and some bodies to melt the snow.
The bodies come in waves. Each winter, Wilson turns his farm into an 8-mile obstacle course, attracting 5,000 contestants who must sign death waivers before the run. years the race has been in operation, Tough Guy racers have suffered serious injuries and death, and over 1,000 have been treated for hypothermia. Everything here is ratcheted up a level from the American version. The first part of Tough Guy was a run through several miles of thick mud in a driving hailstorm. The course tests both physical and mental grit.
Well done, mate. Well done.
Obstacles that can play on a person's fear. Heights, fire, tight spaces, and cold. The course has 5 water obstacles, including wading through ice. The elite racers had to break through it to get across.
Why are you doing this? I don't know why. Because I'm racing. And I don't have friends.
Cold and wet, they crawl under barbed wire. There is a short run to the fire pits, which are part obstacle and part warming station. We thought we'd seen it all until this. Racers must travel underneath logs, holding their breath while navigating blindly through the water. At this point in the race, we noticed many people were being led away by medical staff. Inside the medic station, Tough Guy volunteers were treating racers for hypothermia. The room was packed with people shivering. Some of the racers would later shed their blankets and return to finish the course. But once they left the medical tent, they had to navigate the most feared obstacle. It's called the torture chamber. Inside are loose 10,000-volt wires and spiked metal rods. The racers must move on their stomachs in almost complete darkness. The obstacle finally ends with the crawl through sewer pipes. For those who complete the course, there is a cheap medal and a heat sheet for their suffering. It was this race Will Dean saw several years ago as part of a research project at the Harvard Business School. That work led to the creation of Tough Mudder. But back in England, Wilson says Dean copied his business idea. 2 years ago, Dean paid Wilson a $725,000 settlement, which Dean writes off as the cost of doing business.
So you thought it would save you money just to settle and move on?
Yeah,
Not admit guilt or innocence, just pay it and move on.
I think that's right, and it's a pretty simple concept, and I think it's something that happens every day in American business.
That's not the only controversy in this renegade sport. Obstacle racing is unregulated with no governing body. Racers sign releases before competing, so organizers like Spartan co-founder Joe DeSena are free to create the most extreme challenges, like the annual death race.
Hands down, toughest race in the world.
Because
Because there's no start, there's no finish, you don't know what we're going to throw at you. Could be 24 hours, could be 72 hours, could be 2 weeks. It ends when we want it to end. We don't pat you on the back. We throw all kinds of curveballs at you. We lie to you.
you lie, for instance.
For instance, we might tell you, look, the finish is right around the corner. It might be 2 days later.
Oh, that's just sadistic.
It's sadistic, but it's a death race. It's a pretty serious event. You should come check it out.
So we did.
The smart ones will survive. Let's go. Let's go.
The death race is held twice a year in Pittsfield, Vermont. After a blizzard and in frigid conditions, the participants kick the weekend off with 300 burpees.
Nice game. Warning. Going down to the river.
Next, they hike with 50 pounds of gear for 3 days.
If you don't jog, we stop and do burpees. Entirely up to you.
With little sleep or food, they carry hatchets to chop wood, and at one point, DeSena made racers cross an icy river to move a 2,600-pound metal beam.
1, 2, 3.
Colby Call remembers the last time he